What are the implications of these trial results? First for HFpEF management, and then for the National Health Service.
A lot. So the one thing to be I didn't actually mention this when we were talking about the trial, but type 2 diabetes was excluded from this trial. These were obese, non-diabetic patients. Okay, so GLP-1s are closely associated with type 2 diabetes. That is where we predominantly know them all from. So there was no benefit from improving diabetes in this. And there are ongoing trials in patients with obesity and type 2 and HFpEF. And I think that leads us into where do we go next? Because this whole cardiorenal metabolic that we hear about over and over again, this is another kind of layer of these should all be treated together, because we know there's benefit for GLP-1s in kidney disease. We know there's benefit for GLP-1s in type 2 diabetes. We now know there's benefit in heart failure as well. So it's another one of those drugs that's, you know, very much like the SGLT2 inhibitors, where we're pushing everyone together. Now, the implications are that technically cardiologists are now looking to say, well, actually, anybody who's got a BMI over 30, because that was one of the cutoffs in the trial, should be given a GLP-1 agonist. And we already have seen this happen. So in the new ESC guidance for heart failure or heart disease and diabetes that was launched in August, it already says anyone who has heart failure and type 2 diabetes should be given dual therapy with an SGLT2 and a GLP-1. Right. Now, that's the European guidance. That is very much not what it says here in the UK. And we have to bear that in mind. And the difficulty we have is that our UK heart failure guideline is very out of date. It is not taking account of any of these new trials, many of the new trials. And so we have a lot of cardiologists that are looking to Europe and trying to do what Europe is doing whilst living in an NHS environment. And so the implications can be complicated. In theory, this kind of trial really opens up a population of patients that would get significant benefit in 1, 2, or 3 of the kind of cardiorenal metabolic by being on one of these medications. That is where the world is moving towards. But my past life, I was a type 2 diabetes specialist. I worked in it for 12 years, and a diabetes overall specialist, but I worked in it for 12 years. And we spent years and years as diabetologists trying to convince people to put more people on GLP-1s. And it was a huge struggle because of cost, because it's an injection, who's responsible for starting it, who's not, who's in charge of it. And even now, I don't think that's been fully resolved, even though we have so much evidence for the benefit. So to then add on top of that, all the cardiologists saying, us too, it becomes a little bit of a snowball that we have to think about how we're going to manage all together.
So to clarify, should GLP-1 receptor agonists be part of standard treatment for HFpEF?
It depends on where you think. I think there's an element here where we have to be very practical and say, although the trials didn't say there was overall benefit, there's a lot of benefit to losing weight. And I think we know that for so many comorbidities. It isn't just about getting another new drug. And it's a little bit baby and bathwater. I don't want to throw semaglutide at everybody who's slightly overweight in the hope that it will have some benefit, because we don't know enough about the inflammation aspects of it, about the causative factors of it. We've got a bit more science to do to really pin it down. But all of the indicators, and the SGLT2s are exactly the same. All of the indicators are that this crossover of disease is really about treating people as a whole and actually standardizing treatment across multiple disease states. The difficulty we have in the NHS is the cost. And not least of which the supply chain issue at the moment. Let's not stand aside from the fact that semaglutide is actually not available in the UK currently. It's not likely to be available in the UK until 2024. So we are sitting in a place where the science says it will be great and everybody kind of wants to do it. And we know that we probably should do it. We have guidelines that say we shouldn't because we have nothing for HFpEF. We have type 2 diabetes, but only if you've tried 4 or 5 other things. It doesn't match up. In the UK, we're moving further and further away from what everybody else is saying, and we're going to have to come to a decision at some point as to where we follow. And obviously, NICE is what we're supposed to be doing, and it puts us in a very difficult position because the cardiologists are like, well, we want to do what they're doing. And it's a really difficult balance. And we do have to bear in mind we only have one pot of money, and I think it goes back to the prevention versus cure. At the moment, our guidance is set up as cure. When this has happened, treat like this. This kind of medicine is preventative. If you give semaglutide or another GLP-1 to somebody early in their diabetes pathway, early in their HFpEF pathway, the likelihood is that they will be much better, fitter and weller for much longer throughout the journey. So we're talking about more preventative social kind of engineering to allow people to lose weight and thereby exercise more and thereby have less symptoms and thereby be more productive. And it sounds great, but the costs of it still come down in the baseline of the drug budget. The ICBs are designed that actually it's a whole system costing. But the reality of where I am currently is that the whole system costing just isn't a thing. They're still looking at end of year finances, and end of year finances are blown when you start giving semaglutide to everybody who's BMI over 30 with HFpEF. So we've got lots to do within our system to work out, actually, is this where we want to go?
Interesting. Now, I'm thinking many patients will have seen or heard news headlines and will have questions about this. So what should pharmacists be saying to people who ask about it?
As it stands at the moment, I think we have to say this is the first of its kind. There are multiple other trials that are oncoming. I mean, tirzepatide, which is the new darling of the type 2 world, is also, so the Summit trial is currently ongoing at the moment. So this is something that's going to keep developing over time. As it stands at the moment, we have no ability to give a semaglutide. Even if we wanted to, with the best will in the world, we don't have a supply chain. So the reality is at the moment, we cannot do it. I think what we should be using is the information we're getting from it. Weight loss is fantastic if you have HFpEF. Use the drugs we do have. Make sure people are on SGLT2 inhibitors because they aid weight loss. They also treat diabetes like the GLP-1. There's lots of things we can do in our armory at the moment. And currently, we still do not treat people with heart failure to a gold standard level. HFrEF, HFpEF, they're still not doing. So what pharmacists should be doing is encouraging patients to take control of themselves from a lifestyle perspective and supporting that change, but also really thinking about what can I use that I've currently got, making sure people are on maximum dose ACE inhibitors, making sure people are on beta blockers if they've got a fast heart rate, getting an SGLT2 inhibitor in. All of those drugs that we currently have access to will still be of huge benefit. And I think it's perhaps something to sort of say, maybe it's potentially coming. At the moment, we still don't know enough. This is a first of its kind. And let's see what the next kind of year or two holds. But in the meantime, let's use this as a good time to start doing all the other things and getting everything else better.
Vicky Ruszala, consultant pharmacist in cardiology. Thank you very much for sharing your insights into this trial and its implications. That really has been terrifically interesting. For more information about Vicky Ruszala's work, please visit our website using the link in the description. And please subscribe for more news, videos and journals. For updates straight to your inbox, please follow the links below. And thanks for watching.